Welcome to a new episode of React Native Weekly. This is a show whereby I talk about the latest developments, interesting things which happened in React Native, any interesting tweets or news. So if you're looking forward to anything like that, please subscribe to this channel. I've also linked as well a link to my newsletter if you want to get this through your mail, and enjoy. This is for the week ending on the 9th of July. One of the top stories this week was the EU announcing their Digital Marketers Act. This is likely going to make a positive impact on React Native developers. For people who don't know, basically what the law does is that it talks about the gatekeepers. When you look at your big companies like Meta, Facebook, Google, Apple, so those are your big gatekeepers. So the law basically says that they should be able to open up their platform for small developers, allow their platforms to be interchangeable, and it delves with a lot of different roles about third parties and what they can do and what they can't do. Basically, it's good for the little guy and not so great for apps like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Those are the main big apps whereby this law is targeting. So as a React Native developer, how is this good for you? So I'm just gonna touch on that right now. So you must remember that this law means that like even the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store, now you'll have the ability to install your apps without having to host them on the App Store. So this might be good or bad in the sense that like other developers might copy your app and they might be able to make a duplicate of your app and people are gonna be able to use it, and that can be used for negative things. But the positive part is that you won't be able to, finally you won't be forced to pay that 30% on in-app purchases. So this gives developers more freedom. Also, it will make it easy for users to switch default apps. So that means then like they can change whatever default app which was set by the operating system, so they can switch that app to your app, which is good for us, and also allows developers to communicate directly with users without going through Apple, which is something which has been really hard for developers. So essentially it's more freedom to set your own prices, making it easier to switch default apps, more transparency about how the App Store and the Google Play Store works. So this can only be good for us developers and React Native developers to be specific. So this is a welcome development done by the EU, and then hopefully this law will pass and this will become like really active. So I'm looking forward to this. Then the next story is Meta, or to be more specific, it has to do with the Instagram threads. So we know that Meta released their duplicate of Twitter, so their clone. So basically, if you don't know, Twitter has a new competition called Instagram Threads. Basically, what Facebook or Meta did is that they pretty much took most of the features from Twitter, and then they created their own app called Threads. The app itself is similar to Twitter, but then at the same time it has some elements of Instagram. But one important thing which they did is that they actually made it easy for users to bounce off Instagram to create the account. So then you can actually use your Instagram information, your followers, your links, everything. You can just simply copy it from Instagram and then use it on the app. So that's why it became one of the biggest or the fastest growing apps in the world. And right now it's almost boasting 80 million users, which is pretty cool. The sad thing I can say about it, or one thing which was really disappointing on my part, is that so it has came out that only 1% of the app is using React Native. So you must remember that React Native was actually it's Meta's baby, it's Facebook's baby. So they're the main people who are responsible, who are pushing React Native the most, in the sense that they set up the rules, the timelines, and yes, it's a community effort right now at the moment, and that the community is also fully active. But one thing we're expecting is that for Facebook to be actually doing at least some of the hard lifting in terms of showing confidence in the platform, integrating it in its apps, and actually putting it out there. So it has came out that the Threads app is actually only 1% React Native, and that's only the version for the iOS, but the Android version is actually 100% Jetpack Compose. So there might be a number of reasons why Meta chose to choose a different technology for the apps, in the sense that they chose Jetpack Compose for the Android app, and they chose Swift UI for the iOS app, and then only small elements in the iOS app actually using React Native as seen here. So it's part of the screens in the Threads app, and you can actually see that there is small bits of React Native out there. But then it just came out from developers at Meta, noting that the app itself is actually made with Jetpack Compose. So this was coming from Richard, and you can actually see here they chose to use Compose. And one of the reasons that they could have done this, because one of the first ones that it's obvious that they are going for different teams, and different teams likely gonna use different technology, and the company like Meta, they always strive to get the most performing aspects of each platform. So it makes sense that they might use a native language to build the app, and also they have different performance requirements. So they have money, so they can afford to actually take these kind of gambles, and for them performance is really important. Not saying that React Native is not performant, but then as compared to fully native, there is that difference, whereby the cost for fully native is very high, and the performance improvement is also higher, whereas with React Native the cost is very low when it comes to development time, the cost of actually developing the app, and the time as well. as well, but the performance is just as good. So one thing which I can just say that there are some obvious benefits that Meta would have benefited by just going with React Native. First of all, they have a team which is already trained and has a lot of experience with React Native, so that could have helped if they just use React Native, so they can use that large pool of experienced React Native developers. Also, they could have shared the code across iOS and Android instead of having two teams building the app dependently, one team using Jetpack Compose and one team using fully native Swift UI. And also they could have benefited from the code usability. Yeah, but there's just one thing which like a bit of a disappointment when it comes to the app, the new app. But it's good to see change like this, and it pushes development forward. Cool. And then one other story is with SpaceX using smaller React Native libraries. So it has come out like from a couple of tweets on Twitter that SpaceX and Tesla are actually using React Native libraries, and these React Native libraries are from I'd like to say independent small developers with a few collaborators. So I think it would be cool to see big companies like that starting to offer some sponsorship. I know it's like open sourced and something that shouldn't be forced upon companies, but it would have been cool to see them stepping up and actually showing the appreciation for the time which is put by the library maintainers. So the way the sponsorship would look in this case would probably be them being able to just like either, apart from attributing the library authors, they could sponsor them monetarily, or they could sign a contract with them, do something that will improve the library or help the developer do more. So some sort of like sponsorship to help with officials, free advertising, something that they're doing, but they could do more as well. So that's something just for us to think about. And then the last one when it comes to the big stories is also a really cool tutorial by Thomas showing you how you can integrate React Native to a native app. In this case, it was an iOS app. Actually goes through the details of how you can actually do it, and everything is linked here, so you can actually go and see. Like, he actually goes step by step and explains all the process. So this is cool to see. So if you're interested in this, do check it out. The link is in the show notes, so that's something you can check it out. And then also this was week whereby we had the React Nexus, which happened in India. There were a lot of React Native talks which happened, and if I'd recommend you actually check it out. Like, there's a lot of React Native sessions which happened during that 2-day talk. So some of the talks were really interesting. For example, sharing logic between web and mobile apps. This was a good talk. And then we had other talks as well. everything is was recorded. So I have the YouTube links, so you can actually check it out for both the day 1 and day 2. So this is cool to see. And then finally, as I wrap up, so there's like a really cool tutorial on shaders using React Native Skier done by Amit. So if it's something that you'd be interested to see, so do check it out. It's actually very cool and feels like magic. Cool. Yeah, so that's all for this week. So I hope you having a good week. Have a great one. Cheers, y'all.